Hello and welcome to the Newsagent podcast. My name is Victoria Brush and I'm a Senior Content Executive for Goodlord. This is a recording of our webinar, How Can Letting Agents Use Technology to Win Landlords in 2024? In this podcast, we'll hear from Costas Frangeskou, Megan 18 and Kirstjan Byfield to find out how letting agents can use rental technology, social media and AI to win landlords. And now onto the podcast.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for taking the time to join us on another Goodlord and Vouch webinar. In terms of today's subject is how can agents use technology to win landlords in 2024. So we'll be tackling that maze that is technology, hoping to provide you all with some tips and some on what is good tech and what kind of questions you should be asking moving forward. And to help me with that, I have two of the best in the industry. Firstly, we have Megan 18, who's currently Operations Director of the award-winning Location. She's also my go-to person for how to do social media right, as well as one of the biggest and best ambassadors for our industry, which I would like to personally thank her for while I have the opportunity, which obviously also lend her the role of Vice President of ALA as well. And Megan, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. What a lovely intro.
There you go. Nothing short. Alongside Megan, we have Kirstjan Byfield. Now, if there was an equivalent of it does what it says on the tin, that would be Kirstjan, as well as running a fantastic business as a letting agent alongside the amazing Anne Deckers also, whose levels of service is nothing but exceptional. Kirstjan is also an expert, advisor, commentator, you name it. If it's prop tech, Kirstjan's always involved, and he obviously leading from the front as well with the Depository, the best end of tenancy journey a tenant's landlord or agent could ever wish for. So good that we at Goodlord wish we thought about it first, and we also wear the top as well, just to prove it. Welcome, Kirstjan.
Thanks for having me, man. I was jealous about Megan's intro until I got that one. So, yeah, we had best webinar intros ever.
Fantastic. It's recorded, so you can keep it on a loop, put it by the bedside, help you sleep, whatever you need. Don't worry about that at all.
You just shouldn't continue now. I don't think it can get any better than that.
I'm going to play that intro to wake me up every morning. That's what I'm going to start every day from now on.
Fantastic. Okay, so we're going to jump into our first slides. Perfect. For those of you, so firstly, obviously today's webinar is being supported by Goodlord and Vouch. For those of you that have been sort of either stuck in your businesses or hiding in caves, who are Goodlord and Vouch? Firstly, from a Vouch perspective, they are a standalone referencing solution, best in the business by far. Built by letting agents for letting agents, and you only need to look at their trust pilots to see what their landlords, tenants, and agents think of them. In addition to that, they are obviously also supported by the strongest rent and legal protection in the marketplace, not only covering one of the highest values both during tenancy and after vacant possession, but also with faster, more accurate payments as well. Goodlord is the end-to-end pre-tenancy and post-tenancy offering. We've been market leaders now for 10 years in what we do, and we cover everything from the start of the journey, starting with landlord terms of business, all the way through to your contracts, your referencing, your payments, even through to collecting the rent and then starting all over again once it's all over. So whether you're looking for a new referencing provider, insurance provider, or looking for a way to reduce your costs, increase your profits, give yourself a little bit more time, take a bit more time off and enjoy yourselves, why not? Then please reach out if that helps you. Thank you. Okay, so moving on to the webinar itself. In terms of today, we've got some questions just to help us move along and keep us on track. Hopefully it works. But in terms of where we're going to kick off, with the current perception of rental technology and landlord trends. So obviously, I speak to agents every day, some customers, some potential customers, and there's definitely varying opinions out in the market in terms of tech and good tech and how tech can support and help. What's your guys' feelings? Megan, do you want to kick us off?
I think that tech can support any business as long as you're using it correctly. And I think that you have got to stop looking for golden bullets. I think that's probably my solution. There's very few techs that you can just switch on and it's going to perform miracles, with the exception of the depository, of course. But I think that the biggest issues that people find with tech is that they don't actually utilize it properly. I think that's probably my kind of takeaway, I guess.
Fantastic. Kirstjan, anything to add?
Yeah, I think the tech space is getting better. I think I'm not sure who it was I heard say it the other day. They're not the first, but I think we're seeing less products come to market. But what is coming to market is typically a better quality of product, and then we've got the likes of yourselves and your fixed flows, your kind of sort of established titans within the industry who keep refining products. It was I had a call yesterday with JP who used to have Castle Dean, and he's now just about to launch Prospector Pro, and I think it was the perfect example of higher levels, better qualities of tech coming into the marketplace. I was really blown away about what him and his team have built in such a short space of time. But I think it is that thing of he's an agent, he's been there, he's done it, he knows it. And I think that you can understand tech. Anyone can understand tech. We all walk around with these every day of our lives. And we all kind of get it. But being able to interweave quality tech with the nuances of agency, be that operational or transactional, I just think we're getting into a space where the products in the market and coming to market are much better products. I mean, I totally agree with Megan. There still is no silver bullet. You've still got to embed a product properly, use it properly, train your staff, monitor use, keep coming back to it. But the quality of products out there, if you leverage them well, they can really make a substantial difference within your business.
No, I totally agree. Oh, sorry, go on, Megan.
No, I was just going to say, I really like this wave of agent-created tech, so tech that's been built by agents, because I think that it solves real issues. It's not when you get someone bringing a tech to you and they're going, yeah, but isn't this amazing? And I'm like, it's not really an issue. And I think that that's really important.
Yeah, I was going to say, this will be my 20th year in the industry. I know I don't look it, don't need to say it. But yeah, in terms of at least the last 10 years, especially the big prop tech bubble where there was lots of money being thrown around and people were building tech for tech's sake. I'm definitely see that evaporating very quickly over the last 3 to 4 years. Where I think agents have become a bit more savvy as well in terms of knowing what what they realise is tech doesn't change how you run your business. It makes it better, but it shouldn't change. It's still a people business, and therefore it should support that. Okay. Well, that leads us very well into the new buzzword. So leaving sort of the prop tech is old now. We now have AI, artificial intelligence. How are you guys viewing that for your businesses and outside?
Look, I think we're still, I think like most industries, I think we're still pretty much at the embryonic stage, right? I think a lot of us are still trying to wrap our heads around exactly what AI is capable of. I mean, I saw an agent tweet the other day. I don't really get ChatGPT. Is it just kind of like Google on steroids? And I think that's a very easy perception to make. And I think if you don't take the time to really understand what's happening and the array of products already leveraging it out there, I think, if you jump onto your ChatGPTs or, whatever model you're using, kind of isolated as a daily user, great, plan a day trip here, or I need to write a blog about this, brilliant. But I think you quite quickly get over that. But I think when you look at what AI is already starting to power in terms of data, that's really fascinating. And, we've been looking at Depository, we've been looking and playing around with AI behind the scenes for close to a year now, just kind of tinkering around with what it could do. But I mean, my initial response was a bit like that tweet. It was like, all right, great, it can write a blog for me, it can write an article. So what? We're all just going to produce a lot more content and we're just going to bore people to death. But then when we started tinkering around, and I think the amazing thing with it is it's very easy to start doing quite complicated things with it quite quickly. So I think the reality is it's going to have an enormous impact, but not just on our industry, on every single industry. It's going to be huge. But like all tech, what is it they say? Less than you expect will happen in 2 years, but more than you expect will happen in 5. Something like that. So I think the next 2 years we'll talk a lot about it, and a bit like prop tech, people will get bored of hearing AI or ML. But then as we come out of that 2-year period and we go into the following sort of 3-year period, and then it starts to bed in, and the realities of its capabilities, I think pretty much every industry is going to be dynamically changed. And if you've just got to make sure it's for the better.
Sure. Megan, how are you seeing this from location's point of view?
Well, we're really quite excited about sort of the possibilities of what AI can do. It was interesting though. So Spencer from Paramount stood on stage at the EA Masters last year, and he said that for him, that what AI offers is an opportunity for us as people to spend more time with our customers. So what we're going to be able to do is clear out some of those like kind of crappy jobs, the admin jobs. And when he said that, it was like a little light bulb went off in my head, and I was like, that is the best way that I could describe the benefits of AI right now. We use it across a couple of our prop techs. We use ChatGPT. It makes me sound incredibly intelligent. I love it. But that we can kind of leverage that on. So from things like View Agent, where it will help you respond to your review so that everything's getting a proper response. Prospector Pro, like Kirstjan's talked about. I mean, if you haven't seen Prospector Pro, I sat there and I was like, okay, well, that was a bit cool. So there's some really cool stuff out there. But at bare minimum, it can help you type your property details through like things like Stream.
Yeah.
So I think clearing out some admin for us all so that we as people can use what we are good at, which is our people skills.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and absolutely. And from my perspective, I just want to put it out there. I am not an AI expert. I'm one of the very few people at the moment in this industry that is not an AI expert. But we've been doing AI for years. It's been around for years. Goodlord was built on being able to put in 2 or 3 bits of data and then allowing it to populate the journey right to the end and removing 6-7 hours worth of admin. So it's not something. It's something that's always been there. But obviously the big change has been the speed in which now AI can really ramp things up, and things that may have taken 10 years now can take 10 weeks in some cases. And we're definitely looking at how that can support our offerings as well. It's fantastic. So we've talked a little bit about the AI. You touched on already how it can help you win landlords. Obviously, you're only doing business if you're actually speaking to somebody. That's one of the things I was taught a long while ago. You're not actually doing business if you're sitting behind a desk not speaking to anyone. So are there any other ways that you think it can help you win landlords? You've mentioned a few other products in the marketplace. I'm sure the hoodies are on their way to you. But is there anything that we haven't touched on yet or missed?
Look, I think like Megan said, the best bits of tech. I was thinking about this the last week of like, is there any product I could really give a shout out of? Use this product, it will bring you landlords. And hand on heart, I think apart from canvassing solutions, which that is their sole purpose, I don't think there's anything I can hand on heart say this categorically brings me landlords. But as Megan touched on, and the infinite wisdom of Spencer from the EA Masters, I think most agencies, it is about freeing your staff up to deliver your professional expertise to resolve a situation in the best possible way, but also that something special, that phone call that is for nothing more than just to catch up and touch base. And You know,
And there's so many more.
Till the other week, or you had a kid last month. How's things going? Like giving that little personal touch and the wow factor. That's what wins you landlords. That's what gets people talking about you at a dining table and going, when someone's moaning about what a crap job their agent has done. And then they go, oh, you need to talk to the guys at location. Like they came round with yellow roses the other day, and then like they heard I was ill and they sent me a cookie in the post, and like, and then I had a tumble and they checked in on me a week later to see how I was doing. Could they bring anything round? That is the stuff. That is the stuff that gets you landlords. And I think also we all know with the vast majority of landlords, once you've got them, they're yours to lose.
Yeah.
So get them, you keep them.
Yeah, and there's a lot more. There's a lot more There's a lot more you can offer. Yeah, there's a lot more in the landlord journey now we can offer than ever before. We get involved in so many. In fact, in running their lives for them. I'm going to move us on to the next slide. So we've got time for enough. So perception of rental technology and trends. So yeah, agents, in terms of what agents are thinking of from a technology point of view, what kind of questions are people asking you? Because I'm sure you get lots of agents coming to you asking you for help. What kind of things are they asking?
I get a lot of prop tech questions. I've somehow become like the prop tech lady. And I think a lot of people ask the same things, like I'm struggling to get landlords, or one of the big issues that people seem to find is things like maintenance and that kind of how to manage that. I think the big thing with technology is, and I'm going to keep saying the same thing through this webinar, is if you've got tech and you think, well, it's not working, when's the last time you engaged with your account manager? When's the last time that you engaged with one of their webinars? And when's the last time that you sat on a refresher training for it? Because if your tech isn't working for you, it's probably not the tech. It's that you're not working for your tech. It doesn't matter. You could spend thousands. And I've worked at companies that have got, like, I went to a company once where I said, oh, you've got this tech. And they went, oh, have we? People lose track of what tech they've got because there's so many. So I think maybe having a cleanse down of what you've got and looking at, where are the core areas, and there's suppliers out there like Kerfuffle that will always help people do that. But I think basically looking at the headline of it and going, do I actually know what that does to its full capacity? So recently I took over our Spectre account and I've completely returned it around, because what I wanted to do was show that actually I was going to completely engage and throw myself into their latest advice to see what the outcomes could be. Because they're the experts. So my suggestion is keep engaging with them. I think in general, people just are worrying about the costs, I think, probably of adding tech in. So making the right choices along the way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the key question everyone should be asking their suppliers right now should be, what am I not using? What are other people using that I'm not? What have I missed? Because there's a lot that comes with it. So that's it. Yeah, Kirstjan. Anything we've missed?
I mean, I don't. To be honest, I don't think I've got much to add from what Megan said there. She absolutely hit the nail on the head. I think that any good products will be constantly evolving, adding new features, functioning, refining slight processes, whatever it is. So, yeah, I think it's really important. You just keep coming back to a product, keep exploring. I always say to the guys in the office, with any product we use, figure out what you don't use. Figure out what that button you've never clicked on does. Like, as long as it's not delete account, it's like, just see what it does and let's see what happens. But no, I think Megan's absolutely right. I mean, I've talked about tech before, of treating it like a member of staff. You wouldn't create a role within your business for a new member of staff and then have them turn up to work on day one and have them sit in a corner silently and not tell anyone in the office what they're here to do, or introduce them, or remap the office around that new role I've created. And tech is exactly the same. Like Megan just said, if you sign a contract and go, oh, great, that's it, I'm signed up to it, I'm paying, and you think that overnight that's going to magically transform your business, no, you've got to put in the effort, and you've got to, you've sometimes got to push back against the will of some people. I mean, Megan, I think quite a good example is when Megan was at Haslam's prior to Location. She brought Depository in. And that was really fascinating, in that a couple of the more senior property managers who'd been doing it longer, and this is quite a common psychology, were like, I've done this for 10 years. I know what I'm doing. I don't need you to tell me how to suck eggs. This is tech I really don't need. There's no problem here, you know. And then within, I think, a month, they'd reduced their deposit return times by nearly 60%.
Yeah.
And what was really nice was about a month after that, so about 2 months in, the property manager that was given Megan the most pushback sent us privately an email, didn't even copy Megan in, and just wanted to tell you guys, this has been life-changing.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, like, I don't know how I did this job before. I feel like I'm on top of it for the first time in my life. And I say this not to plug the product, but to show that you as a leader, you've got to sometimes go on that journey. If you buy into a product, you've got to kind of take the staff on that journey with you, sometimes kicking and screaming a bit.
Yeah,
But if you really believe in it and embed it and train it and put the performance indicators in your performance tracking, it will work. It will work.
Yeah, I think it's one of our biggest, one of the biggest challenges is that change management, isn't it? And I think we underestimate that once you get through that, actually having happier staff means they're your brand. They're your front facing. They're the people speaking to your customers day in, day out, potential customers, existing customers, and therefore keeping them happy. We've touched on obviously a few points there in terms of helping to win and retain landlords. We've touched on obviously giving agents more time to actually have those conversations. Is there anything else we're missing from winning and retaining landlords, or is it mostly about the spending more time with them and really understanding and being there?
I think sympathizing and understanding, so obviously this is about prop tech, typically this whole webinar, but if you're investing some time in your own knowledge as well as investing your teams, learning about, for example, the renters reform bill, that is for some landlords a fear generating piece of legislation. And we've got the taxation of landlords. Now, if as agents your team can't have a articulate conversation with a landlord about it and make sure they understand that, yes, for example, we're going to lose this, but we're going to gain this potentially, and be able to slide that scale and show them that we're not panicking, then you won't retain your landlords, no matter how amazing your tech stack is if your landlords are scared and you're projecting that, or you can't reassure them. It's funny, this whole, it was like a big fire, wasn't it, in our industry when they announced the renters reform. We all went, and me and Kirstjan, we sent voice notes back and forth, and I think we both landed in the exact same place of, this is going to be absolutely fine. It's going to take some adjustments. Yes, we might have to tweak a few things, but if we panic, they panic. We're the professionals, and if as professionals we're panicking. So my advice is that it's all well and good having the best tech stack in the world, but if your team don't know what's going on outside of your office, then you won't retain your landlords. So just take some time to invest in upskilling your staff.
Yeah, and I think you touched very well on the next question around, obviously, there's lots of change coming in 2024, and alongside your tech, alongside your suppliers that are also making those changes, we are definitely looking at the renters reform, but we have been for over a year now. We've already started building towards it. So, in some ways we're thankful for the delays, and in other ways we're a bit peed off because we've actually built to support agents and make sure that they're in a better place when it does actually land. Let's move to the next slide. Conscious of time to get through. What role will artificial intelligence play? So we touched this. You mentioned some AI tools that are in the industry today. If you had to pick your favorites, it's something, if you had to recommend one tool, I think I know where you're going, Kirstjan, but what would you be saying? And I'm going to take Goodlord out of this. I know you both were going to say Goodlord, so let me remove Goodlord just to so we can mention a couple of other people.
Oh, I feel like my heart split between two, to be honest. I'm going to say two, even though I'm breaking the rules, but that's what I do. So I've already mentioned both of them. So you've got two. So Prospector Pro, that's changing the way that we speak to our clients. It's framing the way we speak to our clients. It's literally spoon feeding our teams what they need to call about and then summarizing everything. Because for me, God, if I'd had that as a neg, it would have just been game changing. So I think from a prospecting perspective, it's that, but also I think it trains your team as you go. You can't sit there constantly talking to your team about it. So that's one thing. But then when you've got AI tools, like for example, what they've embedded in View Agent, one of the big things we talk about is reviews and social proof and how important that is. Now, sometimes we just send message back saying, thanks so much for your review. Like, it's not that helpful, is it? Or sometimes we forget to respond to them, and that massively decreases our sort of search optimizing on things like Google. So making sure you've got something like that running in the background, you know, it's a really inexpensive way of monitoring things like your reputation. So for me, those two things kind of go hand in hand, and I think you need kind of both. What about you, Kirstjan?
Yeah. So industry wise, I've got to be honest, at the moment, we don't use a lot of industry products that are powered by AI at the moment. Probably the most obvious one we have at the moment is Giraffe 360, who I'm a huge fan on. Love their tech, love their product. And they've recently done it around the property descriptions thing, which I've got to be honest, I was quite dismissive of when people were like, oh, AI can write you property descriptions. And I was like, really? I can't say that I've ever lost a night's sleep over a property description. But, you know, talking to the marketing guys, they love it because they're like, actually, it breaks us out of that mold of writing every property description the way we always have. And it picks up things like it knows which direction the property's facing and blah, 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 which they don't necessarily pick up on writing. So that was nice to that was a nice touch. Prospector Pro, I mean, again, yeah, saw that yesterday. Wow. So
their switchboard's already blocked, so we'll move on.
There's a couple of cool bits outside. Like there's a lot of products outside the industry. Like we talk a lot about kind of tools to support people, and I think particularly, you know, primarily a lot of this webinar is aimed at leaders. There's a really cool AI tool called Pi, just PI. And if you've got an Apple smartphone, an Apple iPhone rather, it works best on that. And it's basically like your personal assistant, but it can be a life coach. It can be, so you can literally have conversations with it in your car. You can pop your headphones in when you go for a walk. You can talk through something difficult you're like coming up with either emotionally or professionally, and it will help you kind of gather and organize your thoughts about how you want to kind of express something. It can help you aim towards achieving a certain goal. You can have it try and educate you if you want to learn about things, anything from AI and ML through to when the dinosaurs were around. It's a super cool tool. And like I said, it's literally, it's kind of your own psychologist, life coach, PA, sat in your pocket free of charge. So if you've not checked that out, go and have a look at that. It's a really cool.
I'm never going to need to speak to anyone else ever again. That's fantastic. Thank you. That's my first download after this. Talking about AI technology's influence, how is it going to work in the future? How do you see any change in the industry? It's a 100+ year old industry. It hasn't necessarily, lots of things have come. We're in a much better shape than we've ever been. But it's still fundamentally very similar to what it was many years ago. If you look forward, you mentioned the 2 years and 5 years. But where do you think we're going to be in 5 years' time? How much change do you expect? Let's start with Kirstjan.
We've had some. I've been having some sort of quiet conversations. Like I say, we've been looking and playing with AI within our platform for 6+ months now, and also seeing kind of what happens out in the big bad world as well. And there's already been lessons out there of companies that have kind of leapt on it too quickly, and not necessarily that the tech wasn't ready, but the company and the workforce weren't ready for what that meant, and the knee-jerk reaction to that. And there's a lot of misunderstanding. But I think we've been kind of reaching out to people and just kind of feeling out a lot of sort of agency leaders' thoughts around AI. And I've got to say, actually, generally, I think it's viewed very positively, very much in the vein that Megan has already framed. They very much see it as a tool that is going to enable their staff. I think probably the most common thing we see is within most businesses, and particularly larger businesses, the fact remains you have your superstars, your middle rank players, and your ones who aren't performing quite so well. And I think when I talk to leaders, what they're really excited about is giving the top performers the tools that they can increase their capacity. But on the flip side, they're also looking at the data and information that gives about training the middle rank and the lower performers to align their performance more succinctly with what the top performers do. You know, like Megan said on Prospector Pro, it really picks out, you know, your tone of voice, your ums and ers and this, that, and the other. So it really is going to train you into being a really well-refined prospector on the phone. And I think, you know, I was expecting a lot more pushback. I was expecting to speak to people and be like, whoa, 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 whoa. You know, like you said, we give ourselves quite a hard time about how we evolve as an industry, although I think we evolve better than we give ourselves credit for. But I think generally the appetite is good. I think people are excited to see what it will do. But yeah, I think the general positive comments are, yeah, you know, excited to go on this journey. But what we're really excited to see is, you know, giving our better performing members of staff more capacity.
Fantastic. Just to let everyone out there know as well, if you have any questions or any comments that you want to raise as well, please put them in the chat alongside. Megan, in terms of you know, how do you perceive how agencies are going to work in the future? How do you you know, what changes you think will happen? You know, we talked about obviously the death of the high street. We're still there. It's still working. People still love it. What do you think is going to happen from a working practice point of view?
Firstly, I hate going shopping on the high street. So going shopping is my worst nightmare. But I think in terms of an agency perspective, I thought a lot about this because I can't remember which conference it was last year, but someone basically said that negotiators will become non-existent. And I thought, I'm not sure I agree with that. But what I do think is that we'll be able to grow our businesses further without having to make more employment. I think we'll be able to, you know, for example, the role of a property manager. Now you've got technology like FixFlow. We use a company called Help Me Fix as well. By the time it gets to property management, most of the time it's already dealt with. So actually we've reduced capacity down hugely, which is enabling them to take on a more proactive role, I think, within the business. So for me, I think that we'll see the same faces, but maybe loaded up in slightly different ways. And I think that's how I would like to think about it. So I think it's a business that will grow with the tech, I guess.
Oh, fantastic. Well, I was just hoping that AI can help us build houses a lot faster, and then we'll all be happy, won't we? Right, next slide, please. How can technology help you tackle issues? So fraud is increasing. So, you know, we've been using AI in our referencing for some time now. We were probably the first when it came to open banking, in terms of checking passports, facial recognition, and one of the things that AI is definitely opening up to us, which we'll be speaking a little bit more about in the following webinars, is around the fact that AI allows you to capture data from source. So you're no longer having to sort of worm through a number of third parties or other people. So we're looking from an AI perspective, we're looking at, okay, how can we get closer to the source? How can we get more accurate and remove fraud? Because you know, fraud is getting more, you know, it's more and more, we're getting more sophisticated. You know, as technology grows, technology also supports the fraudsters, and you know, sometimes you're having to run alongside them or sprint alongside them in some cases just to make sure you're covering. But from a fraud perspective, are you guys seeing fraud increasing within your businesses as letting agencies, or how's that working for you?
I think over the last few years, there's definitely been an increase. I saw a stat, I think it was like 1 in 10 applications made for rental properties has some sort of fraudulent activity to it. And I think and we talked about this off air, that I think that fraud, you instantly think of like the really bad guys that are like money laundering. But actually what you forget is that in this market, prices of rents have gone up so drastically and people's wages haven't really risen to that same kind of effect. So we're seeing people be a bit more desperate. They may be putting their OTE as opposed to their basic salary. And if you haven't got the right referencing tech that's spotting things like that, you know, if you write to an employer and say, does this person earn 100 grand? And they go, yeah, that's their OTE. But actually what you need is, you know, small things like text that break that down. And I feel for people. And I think that that's a really difficult part of what we're kind of living in at the moment. So having a really good provider of your referencing, I think, is absolutely essential. With the the added bonuses of things like Goodlord have got the ID. Is it IDVT? Is that what it's called?
IDVT, yeah.
Things like that will help. Aside from the fact it helps from a fraud perspective, it actually sort of speeds things up for your end too. So, we're definitely seeing that now.
Yeah, there's no reason why references should should be taking any longer than 48 hours in this new world. But Kirstjan, apart from the referencing side, is there anything else from a fraud perspective you're seeing?
Yeah, I think for us, definitely the thing we kind of try and look out for is potential subletting. I mean, we're dealing with another case of it right now. I'd say that's probably the most challenging one because that's quite nuanced. If they're not a big operator. So yeah, I'd say that's our biggest challenge. But again, we've been talking with our reference provider about, we've had one recently slip through the net. And we're going back through that application and looking at what can we do ourselves to protect ourselves better? What, if anything, can our reference partner do? Like, could they have done anything differently? We're really picking the file apart, not because we're pointing fingers going, you screwed up, but just because we want to work with them to figure out, could anything have been done differently? I mean, the fact is, no one's going to catch everything. But yeah, so I think for us, different markets, different challenges, but yeah, in London, like Megan said, it's not the Machiavellian sort of black and white striped burglar going down the street. Like you said, it's either people just a little bit desperate, which is quite sad, or the biggest thing we see with our listings is with people looking to sublet them.
Fantastic.
It's interesting what you just said there as well, Kirstjan. It's that black box theory, isn't it? When an airplane crashes, the first thing they look for is, obviously aside from saving people, is the black box, so they can try and learn what happened. And I think that if we as agents, every time we have something go wrong within our business, think, right, where's the black box on this, and go through it and work out what the issue is. It might be that it's actually a combination of referencing provider, your negotiator, the way your adverts, worded. And actually that's a really important lesson for everybody, I think.
Well, it's that mindset, right? There's that mindset of there's no losses. You have wins and you have lessons.
Yeah. No, and I think you mentioned it before as well. We both mentioned it around training and your staff really knowing the systems. I think one of the biggest, we have consistent training on our referencing. You can log in twice a week, and there's always training happening for any new starters or people that want to revisit or refresh, as well as obviously booking in one-to-ones as well. And that training aspect, really understanding how to maximize the value. So once again, talking to your suppliers, whoever they are, can really support you, because the last thing you want to do is start losing a landlord or losing their recommendations as well.
And do talk to your suppliers. I think I don't think there's a good supplier out there that doesn't want to help you as an agent get the most out of your platform. Don't be afraid to call up a supplier and go, look, we've been with you guys for 6 months and I'm not sure we don't really seem to be getting what we thought out of it. Or, Sam over there is smashing it, but my other two, I don't really understand. Just be honest. No good supplier will have an issue. They'll, most suppliers will relish that and figuring out how they're going to help you get what you want out of the system or get your staff to where they want to be. Like, any supplier would much, much rather have that conversation with you 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 months in than just get an email at 12 months going, thanks, but we've just signed with such and such. Here's my notice.
But no, and a lot of the changes, we make is, some of my best ideas have come from agents that I've stolen. So in terms of tech, how much do we talk about tech with our landlords? Obviously, there's lots of worries for landlords at the moment. The world's changing. They're hearing they're seeing the articles in the media, the scaremongering. The world's coming to an end. You're never going to be able to get your property back under any circumstance, and you won't be able to increase your rents and all kinds of other things getting thrown at them, and they're not be able to see what the reality is. But do we talk enough about tech with our landlords? Should we be? Is it too much for them? Where do you stand on that?
I think it's a delicate line, because sometimes it can go back against you, and they're like, well, what am I paying you for? You know, that's always a difficult one. So I think it depends on what the tech is. They don't need to know everything. But for example, like one of the things I like to talk about when pitching is our maintenance process and how we save landlords. You know, we've saved landlords $3,000 in the last year using technology that will help diagnose their maintenance and try and repair things over FaceTime and things like that. And I think that offers a benefit to the landlord. They can see there's a tangible return. What they also don't realize is that then we're saving ourselves time as well, back end. But from a landlord's perspective, you know, the fear is, what happens at 10 o'clock at night and I can't get hold of you, Megan? Well, don't worry, we've got that covered as well. And I think finding the texts that have a tangible benefit to the landlord and then explaining them, I think it's quite difficult to do that. You know, so for example, on a pitch, I'm not going to talk about the depository because that's way off in the future. Now, if they've had concerns about deposits, that is a perfect time to bring that up and talk about how we do that process. Yeah. But for me, it's about working out what the small wins are, asking your landlords what their concerns are. And if their concerns are what happens when it's the middle of the night, then you can slip in whatever tech needs to be slipped in at that point. But I think that we have to cover an awful lot with landlords already and try not to confuse them. I think, you know, if we start saying to them, oh, we use an AI technology to do, they're like, what? I don't really care about that. Just let my house, you know? So it's a balance, I think.
Okay. I'm gonna move us on. I think we spent quite a bit of time on issues tackling from a technology point of view. Our next slide. How can letting agents use social media, digital marketing to win landlords and attract tenants? So social media, I have to start with you, Megan. What platforms are working? What you know, there's good social media and there's bad social media attempts at the moment out there. Give us the tips.
Okay. So first of all, let's work out who we're targeting. So for example, who are we targeting? Let's say landlords. So if you go on to things like national statistics, you can work out the average age of landlords, for example. So then you start working out what platforms that they're spending most of their time on. So for example, spoiler alert, where we are in London, typically our landlords seem to be in their sort of 40s to 50s plus. We are starting to see landlords get younger and younger. So that's kind of like boomer generation. Boomers spend most of their time social media wise on Facebook. Now, people often think that Facebook's a dead platform. Well, that's where your landlords are. So I think in terms of platforms, it really depends on what the goal of your social media is. If you just want brand exposure, putting up bougie property tours on TikTok is going to be a winner because obviously it's got mass coverage and the algorithm sends it further and further. What you typically have then is 1 million views on a video like we've had recently on one of our property tours. Amazing. Is that going to sell its house? Probably not. But if you head to our Instagram, it's very hyper local. So it means that then if you come to our Instagram, it typically is local following because we've built a community there. So I think it's not an easy solution to say which platform because it really depends on your personal goal for that social media.
Okay. Kirstjan, anything to add?
No, I think that, I mean, Megan is carved out a great sort of position by herself, and then she's joined Location, who, you know, Vicky and Assad, they just get marketing. Their marketing team and the content they produce is phenomenal. I think for agents that it's some of the old things that the likes of Chris Watkin and others trundle out there. Consistency. Mm-hmm. Keep doing it, keep posting it. Your post will get better, you will get better engagement. Just keep doing it. Be genuine, you know. And like Megan said, what is it that who are you providing this content for, and what is it you're trying to get out of it? You're just trying to help people, you're trying to share the love, you're trying to, you know, whatever it is. But don't just sit there and just post your property listings on there, because people don't go onto Facebook to buy a house. They might stumble across a house, but let's be honest, they go to your Rightmoves, your Zooplas, you're on your markets. You know, that's where they go house hunting. So by all means, like Megan said, plonk the stuff on there, but just understand 1 million views sounds very flattering, but is that any better if it brings you no leads than a video that gets 5 views, but a landlord picks up the phone and goes, oh my God, I've just been through that exact situation. I'm coming to you guys next time because you guys would have handled it differently and I wouldn't have been confronted with XYZ. But yeah, be consistent, be genuine. Yeah.
Sounds like be more corgi, Kirstjan.
Be more corgi. That's a very catchy catchphrase. Did you just come up with that just now, Megan?
Just now.
But no, I think as well, you mentioned the localness of there. I think, as one of the lessons I've definitely learned watching, one of the benefits I have is I get to look at 1,500 agency businesses out in the marketplace, and I get to see, data that sometimes other people won't see, and understand, okay, well, what are they doing that's making them so good? And one of the things that actually, I've learned from quite a few very successful agents is that investing in that localness. So, mentioning local businesses, tying up with local businesses, really, and also from a developing a marketplace and developing, and also pricing wise as well, supporting your local brand is as important as supporting your business in terms of attracting the right people and attracting the audience. So I think that's key. Any other platforms we want to mention? Digital brand platforms? Anything else? We've mentioned a couple there, Megan. Is there anything we're missing? If there was, what other platforms would you recommend, depending on what agents are trying to achieve?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of LinkedIn as well. LinkedIn's a totally different platform to everything. It's a delicate line of how that works. There's quite a few people used to go, it's not Facebook, you can't put that here. I think that you do have to have a more professional tone on LinkedIn, but I do think there is space for humor and natural personality. What I tend to do myself is I pick up landlords through things like TikTok because I put out, informative content on there. What they tend to do is trickle themselves to my LinkedIn. If you head to my LinkedIn, for an example, I quite regularly ask people for reviews on myself so that you can see that I am, not just full of it, that I actually have got, some knowledge. And it's become almost like an online CV to landlords. So don't underestimate the power of your LinkedIn profile. But equally, when you're out prospecting and you're using prospecting tools, you can use LinkedIn to communicate with those people as well. As long as they're, happy to accept you as a connection, then don't spam them. Don't become a bot.
Also, make sure your details are up to date. I quite often, for prospecting Depository, I'll be quite often looking people up, or someone will comment or something. It is quite amazing how often you'll go onto someone's LinkedIn profile and the photo is over 10 years old. Their contact details, I mean, I've gone to agents where their contact email on LinkedIn is not just their email from their last job, it's from 2 or 3 jobs ago. Yeah. And it's still got that agent's website, and it's still got as their primary contact information. So yeah, just little things like that as well. Just make sure you do that little bit of housekeeping, making sure everything's up to date. But no, bang on the money.
Potentially put your password somewhere safe, so if you are on LinkedIn, you get back into it. No, absolutely fantastic. And that means digital landlords. Is there such a thing as digital landlords? Are you guys focusing? Do you think about digital landlords at all? What's your thoughts on it?
What do you mean by digital landlords? Just if I'm being stupid right now.
Landlords that are going online.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Definitely, I know definitely from my own personal social media that I've had landlords drop off keys for a whole portfolio before, having spent some time trawling through my hundreds of videos on TikTok and then finding me on LinkedIn. I think landlords are, as I said, landlords are getting younger and younger, but what you have to do as a starting point is work out where your landlords are. So for your area, if you could do a survey internally and work out where your landlords like to spend time online and their age, my God, you've got the golden ticket. You know exactly what you've got to do. You've just got to pinpoint what platform they're using, because even my nan uses social media. I mean, she does it to argue with Simon Whale quite often. So if my nan can do it, then I'm telling you, landlords are on there.
Absolutely fantastic. Should we move on from this point. So obviously, thank you for your time today. We have one question actually, rolling back. Anna Marie, thank you for joining us today. Actually, Megan, she said, can you just repeat the 2 suppliers that you've recommended?
So Prospector Pro. So you want to speak to John Paul if you want to have a demo on that one. That's like a prospecting, like a little prospecting pal that sits alongside you, and it will work out lots of different bits and bobs. And then View Agent, which is you can speak to Simon Whale from Kerfuffle, but basically they do like an AI generated responses to all of your like Google, Facebook reviews. And it's also got like a little dial so you can see your online reputation from all the platforms, not just one, to make sure that your overall reputation score is looking really strong as well. So those were my 2.
Okay. Kirstjan?
Yeah, I mean, if you're not already looking at Draft 360 for your marketing, AI is a small element of that, but big advocate of that. And yeah, I mean, otherwise, just look at what you've got. Sit down, take a minute, look at what you've got, look at what's working well, talk to your staff, look at who needs training, look at what needs diving back into, and talk to your suppliers, talk to your partners, like be honest with them. If you're not happy or you're struggling with something, have a chat.
Yeah, cool. Question leading on from this as well. Thank you, anonymous person. But what posts? So Megan, what posts do you see work best for landlords to getting landlords' attention on social media? So media such as Facebook, they say. What kind of post would work best for you?
I mean, I think there's 2 folds to that. I think informative content's always helpful. People like to know, what they don't know. And also because we're incredibly British, if you give someone something, they quite often want to give something back to you. So if you're giving people loads of free advice, when it comes to renting their property out, they're going to be like, oh yeah, she's, that was nice of her. I should probably give something back to her now. So I think informative content, like what questions are you being asked day to day? For example, should I let my property furnished or unfurnished? Do I have to pay tax? What happens if I live overseas? Like little things like that. Questions you're asked every week is your content. Just answer it in a much larger capacity. I think it's like 82% more consumers will buy from video than they will from anything else. So I would recommend doing it on video. The flip side is a lot of I don't personally do it, but I've seen a lot of agents do it really well. Is they'll look at local buy-to-let deals and they'll go, right, for example, Foxtons down the road have got this amazing 2-bed flat. It's got this. I think it would rent for this. The yield would be this. There's their number if you want to go and do it. And again, it comes back to that incredibly British trait of ours that we've given them that buy-to-let deal. They're much more likely to come back to us because they feel kind of obliged to. So I would say are my 2 kind of suggestions.
Definitely watched a couple of those of Kirstjan's posts as well in terms of the local area. Kirstjan, question for you. So for people that aren't as savvy on prop tech, question from Joe here. Thanks, Joe, for tuning in. If there was 2 or 3 questions, killer questions that you need to ask when meeting a new supplier, what kind of guidance would you give? What kind of things should they be asking?
Look, I think absolutely you want a reference of an agency that the supplier feels is aligned with you, both in size and my agency base, we've got 6 staff. There's no point me going and getting a reference of a product from like the Leaders Romans group because they're not going to want the same thing from a product I am. So I would say, probably number 1 would be that. Who else do I know who's using this product that I can have a chat with? And then really in terms of educating yourself, I mean, look, everything Megan and I have shared on here, we've always been an open book. Reach out to your agent community. There's lots of social media agent groups where you can knowledge share this stuff. If you're an owner or a director of a business, you've got the Baldock brothers run their monthly directors dinner, which is a great chance. Suppliers are actually banned from that. I get in sometimes secretly because I still have my agent hat. But again, the amount of things that people have learned in that room, just sat around the table, having honest conversations about problem in the business or a problem with a particular product they're using or whatever, You know, you've got your guys at Kerfuffle who will sit down and really, first of all, understand what it is you're trying to achieve with your business, and then who they feel are the best suppliers that are going to help you get there. And again, as I've already said, you know, talk to your suppliers, you know, go out and just, we're all pretty straight talking people. So yeah, just, that's it really.
No, I love that. I think, you know, there is an absolutely huge community out there. You know, we are a community, and you just need to ask. I've never known anybody reach out for support either through myself, the team, or through other suppliers or other agents, and the answer's been no. So definitely, you know, pick up the phone or Slack a message over, or whatever it may be. You know, there's plenty of people out there that want good for the industry. I'm gonna wind us off. Oh, sorry, Megan. Before
Hey, that's a good point from Kirstjan. So, for example, when I put the depository in, he set me up with people that had a similar branch sizes, similar portfolio sizes. I went and met with them. You know, people are willing to give their time, but also then we sort of helped the other way, and we had somebody that was struggling to get their team on board with depository. So I spoke to them about how we handled that, and then they were able to then implement that in theirs. So I think people often don't realize that's actually a thing. You know, just if you just ask the supplier, they'll almost certainly be happy to help, and there'll be an agent out there that will help you.
Cool. Look, lovely. Thank you for your time today. Thank you for answering those questions. Any links or anything we discussed today, we'll be sending out. In terms of, from a good perspective, before we let you go, obviously, renters reform is back on the agenda. You know, Goodlord has a free renters reform bill course that's available to everybody out there, including your staff. Just making sure that they have an understanding of what may be coming down the line, and you know, and separating the chatter from the actual. So if you get an opportunity, you know, or your teams, we make sure your teams understand when they're being obviously speaking to landlords and tenants in terms of what may be coming down the line and how best to position it. That course is absolutely a must. In addition to that, we've just launched our new Lettings and the Law guide. I think it's our 3rd edition now, and obviously it's updated throughout the year as things change as well, but definitely an amazing read for anyone. You can listen to it, you can read it, whatever you need to do on any of the platforms available, but if you get a chance, absolutely something to share with your teams as well in terms of what's coming down the line for 2024. But look, thank you everyone for today. We've got a few seconds left, so just to say goodbye. Thank you to Megan and Kirstjan for taking the time out. Really appreciate it. Hope to see everybody soon. All the best.
Thanks for having us, guys. Bye.